And there we are, live with Mr. Rob down from Long Cove. Rob, how the hell are you, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on. So,
Absolutely. As we said before, it was I missed the ball on getting on sooner, so I'll take full responsibility for that. But happy
uh,
to finally get you on.
yeah, like I said before, you must have scraped the bottom of the barrel. You must have run out of people. So, you've had some really good guests. So, I'm pretty humbled to be on here.
It's been fun. There are times when you sit there and think, because it's not my livelihood to do the show.
Right.
That'd be great if I became the Joe Rogan of the golfing
No
podcast
kidding,
world.
right? Yeah,
But there are times when you're trying to get it in, you're trying to do scheduling, which has been the biggest challenge for this. I never would have guessed that, but it's like, God, do I really want to do this? Do I want to keep going? And then you have someone on and you have a great time, and you're like, holy shit, I never knew that
yeah,
about this, or I never knew it about that. And people write into you, and it's like, okay, there's a
yeah,
reason beyond income and everything else that you do this, make the time
for
and
sure.
sacrifice. Like we all do that. We all have something that we do that the
Yeah,
payment is not immediate, yet the long-term benefit is there.
I love it.
So you've been at Long Cove. Is it coming up on 2 years already,
It's almost
or
five.
longer? Holy shit! There
Almost
we go. So
five. Yeah, it's
COVID has thrown
crazy.
my time frame really for a loop, like it does many. And you're
Yeah.
liking the island.
I love it. I mean, the timing was a little crazy because we had two boys in high school
Hmm.
at the time, but the opportunity was just amazing. And career wise, it was kind of right at the right time where I was in Atlanta, and so and then looking back at it now, getting down here, and then the whole pandemic thing happened and everything, and I couldn't have been in a better place. So the island
Yeah.
is it's a great place. I remember when I tell people when BP offered me the job, and I said, "All right, let me talk to the family, take a night to think about it." He said, "Well, I'll leave you with this." He said, "A lot of people save 51 weeks to spend 1 week on Hilton Head, and I'll pay you 52 weeks to live here." And I'm like, "That's pretty good. That's a pretty good way to think about it."
Yeah. Bob's been around a long time, and he knows
Legend.
what to say. Yeah, very much
Yeah,
so.
yeah,
I
it's a
didn't
legend.
know, not to get off on Bob, and I got to have him on, not to get
Yeah.
off on his biography, but I didn't know that. I knew he worked at Long Cove as an assistant under Karen.
Mhm.
And then John Richardson was there because I worked for John at Sea Pines when I moved here.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I didn't know that Bob had gone to Scioto and then
Yeah.
came back to take the head pro job. So
Right.
I mean, he's been in some great spots for his career.
Yeah. To last as long, to last that long at a private place like Long Cove is, I mean, that's unbelievable, and the
Hmm.
membership loves him. I mean, he does such a phenomenal job. I mean, the best guy to work for. It's great.
And
And
he is, as far as I know, now I could be missing somebody, but with Harmon retiring out of secession and
yep,
Billy Sampson going into teaching out at Spring a number of years ago, because he has been there since
yep,
'93, I think. I mean, Bob's the longest standing professional slash director of golf at any club around here, which has got to
I
be
think so.
30 years ish.
I think he's like 38,
Wow.
38 years there,
That's like
something
unheard of
crazy.
in today's world.
Oh, it's crazy, right? So,
The only other one I knew of locally was Toby Brown was at Savannah Golf Club for, I think, 38 years too.
oh, really? Yeah,
Yeah,
I
he
don't
was
know
coming up
him.
on 40, but he called it
Wow.
quits. So
Yeah,
the amount of teaching knowledge around here is probably better than the golf courses, if I dare to say that. Right? I mean,
it's
there's
unbelievable.
and if you even look just at the island, not even going off island, we'll get off
All
island
right.
too, but you're at Long Cove. Tim Cook's
Yeah,
over at
Tim.
Sea Pines, and you
Yeah,
go back to the old guard. You got Rick Barry is still at Sea Pines, Skip Malik still at
yeah,
Sea Pines, and they were always in the top 100 as far back as I can remember.
yeah,
As you come off the island, you got Jason over at
yeah. Good
Colleton.
friend of mine. Yeah,
Krista's
Krista.
at
Yeah,
Berkeley, and then you got Andrew out at over in Savannah, and it's
yeah.
just like, well, how many can you pack into one small place? But there's so many. We're such a golf mecca. It just seems to work. There's plenty for everybody.
There is, and it's great. It's funny because Jason and I are good friends, and I guess he moved down maybe a year and a half after I did, and we both
Hmm.
came from kind of the same situation, right? We were at kind of a big metro, a lot of junior stuff, and then you come down here, and it's it's a change of pace, right? I
Yeah.
mean, lifestyle is different. Certainly, your demographic of who you're teaching is different, and we've had some fun talks about it because but for me, it's perfect. I love it.
When to kind of go back to your beginning, when did you take up teaching?
Uh, Really, right after college, my coach slash mentor was Todd Anderson. If you know Todd, who's down at TPC now, was at Sea
Yeah.
Island for a long time, and I went to work for him at Elk River Club in North Carolina, and just knew that I kind of wanted to teach, and I'd worked at Golf Digest junior schools while I was in college, kind of helping out as an assistant, and that's where I got to know Todd and Flick and a lot of those guys, and so Todd said, "Yeah, come on." And so spend the summers at Elk River and then go to Florida in the winter and work Golf Digest schools, kind of be an assistant director. And just that was like being on scholarship,
Hmm.
because we'd have a 5-day school. And, you had guys like Flick, John Elliott, Todd, Hank Johnson, all these guys, and you just were standing there watching them teach all day. I was running the video. I was the video guy. We had two of those big VHS cameras, an AV splitter box, 13-inch black and white TV. You're drawing dry erase markers on there, and it's blurry, and everybody's like, "This is awesome!" I see my swing, and kind of I tell people that this is kind of how I develop my thing. Like the first year I would teach with these guys. And at the end of that first year, I'd say, okay, I'd look at a student and I'm like, okay, I think I'm with Hank Johnson today. I think this is probably what he's going to say. I started kind of figuring out what their practices were. And by the second year, I was kind of like, okay, yeah, I think they're going to say this. Maybe I like the way someone else said it better. And by my third year, I was kind of like, okay, here's what I would say. I've watched
Hmm.
these guys and here's what I would say. And that's when Todd was like, man, you got to start teaching on your own. You've done this enough. Yeah, but we always tell people like go shadow teachers, and to get paid to do it for basically 3 years and watch guys who are legends, and see how they communicated, and in that golf school format, how that is. I mean, you've got 5-10 minutes to make a pretty big impact on somebody, and it was just, man, the knowledge. It was just like being on scholarship. It was awesome.
Were
Great
there
time.
after the schools or during lunches or dinners or breakfast? Did the coaches sit around and just sit there and talk golf swing, and you kind of just absorbed?
Yeah, some would, some of us some kind of brushed you off a little bit. Some would, yeah, but some would, I mean, I remember sitting over at Hank Johnson's hotel room, and him just asking, like digging on us, like, okay, well, we're watching a tour event. Yeah, what do you think about this guy? What? Oh, well, the swing's great. Well, no, I mean, like, look at it, and really kind of wanting us to get better. And like I said, Todd's a big mentor. I just saw him this week at Arthur Blank's thing, and he was laughing. He's like, man, I remember when you were a little 24-year-old, chasing me around. But he would always, he'd be sitting there, and I'd be raking the bunker, and he's like, Rob, look at, what do you think on this? And like, man, you're the teacher, no, tell me what you think. And that kind of stuff. Man, that was awesome. You get guys like that who you really respect, who are mentors, to kind of bring you in to that world, and just to listen to them talk. And I mean, we had a guy, John Paxson, who was there, and we'd go out and play with him and Jay Overton, who was running Innisbrook at the time. And
Hmm.
Jay is playing on tour. He's running Innisbrook, and we're getting out there, and he's just grinding and beating our butts, and we think we're hot shots. But then, then we'd sit down afterwards, and he'd be like, "Man, look, here's what you need to do. Here's a path." So those guys certainly gave back a lot.
Was Michael Barsky doing club fitting there when you were down at Innisbrook? Because I know he and
If
Jay
he
were
was, I
pretty good
didn't know
friends.
him.
Okay.
Because we were kind of separate from, we had a range. Golf Digest had a range.
Hmm.
So we kind of did some stuff within Innisbrook, but we were basically just kind of going there, setting our stuff up, and then getting out.
Yeah,
And
Mike's
occasionally they'd let us play.
he's a good friend of mine. So I when you said Overton and Innisbrook, I know he was
Yeah.
down there. I want to say in the early 90s, maybe to the
And
mid
probably would have been
90s.
about the right time frame,
I think
94.
he was back at the back of the range. He had a trade 28-hole
Yeah,
trailer, something like that. So he was off
I
the
remember
range.
seeing that. So yeah.
What what was the attraction to the coaching and teaching?
That's a good question. I think I always just liked it. Just, like I was fortunate. My first lessons that I took were from Paul Runyon and Jim Flick, and I had an attraction on how they help people. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I just and then working right under Todd and seeing that, and I never really had any desire to be the head pro guy. I did my assistant deal for a short time, and out of what I thought I should do, interviewed for one head pro job, came down to me and another guy, and you know, didn't get it, and it's the best thing that happened because then I was like, okay, let's just go down this road, you know.
So you're out of college, and for anyone that's been there, you're doing your job, or your first job,
Yeah,
and you're working there for Golf Digest. And as you said, it was quite the spot to be paid to sit there and learn from some
it's awesome.
masterminds. But was there any compelling event that said, "Yeah, I'm all in on teaching," or were you still kind of on the fence? Maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll see what comes along, or was there, or was there a distinctive moment that you said, "Yeah, this is what I'm going to do for the next 40 years"?
I think it was just, um, I mean, one, I probably wasn't smart enough to do anything else. I think this is, I kind of peaked out on what my options were. But I just kind of knew, like, you know, um, I grew up in a small town. There was no golf professional. There was no range. So I had to travel, and I'd gone to Golf Digest junior schools as a kid, and liked that. Liked being around those coaches. And so when it came time, it was just kind of like that's kind of what I want to do, and tried to find the best means. Of course, when you're first starting out and you can't support yourself fully on teaching, I mean, you're not
Hmm.
making, I'm thinking, oh, and I looked at Todd at the time. He was a head professional and teaching. I'm like, well, this is the ticket, right? You're getting a salary, and then teaching is a little bit of bonus. And then shortly after that is when he left just to teach full time. And I'm like, yeah, I don't really enjoy running a member guest too much. Inventory is not a thing. I'm not great with numbers, so I certainly don't want to do a budget. So I just enjoyed it, standing out there. I'm kind of a people person, I guess. Being out there talking to people and helping them out and getting to know them. There was really nothing else that I thought, oh yeah, maybe I'll try this, or let me look at this path.
Hmm. So you go from, so by your third year, you're a Golf Digest, you're
Hmm.
going back and forth, but North Carolina down to Florida, and
Yep.
so Todd says to you, "Look, you're to a level you need to search, search your own path.
Start doing something. Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna kick you out of the nest." So,
Yeah.
where did you go from there? What was the next step?
I went to a club called Old Overton in Birmingham.
Mm-hmm.
Worked for a guy named Jim Brotherton, who's in the Hall of Fame, National Professional of the Year. And it was new. The club had been open about a year. And when I interviewed, I told him that I had a passion for teaching. Now, I went there as an assistant, but I said I want to teach. And, I bought the laptop and a camera, and it got to the point to where after a couple of years he was like, okay, look, here's the limit. Like, you can teach 4 hours a day, but you're kind of here to do other things too. And I enjoyed it. It was awesome. Jim is huge mentor. Shaped a lot of how I do things. I mean, this guy is ultimate professional. And then while I was there, the teaching job at Atlanta Athletic Club, they had an opening for a teaching professional, and it was shortly before, uh, I guess it was '99, so before they had the '01 PGA,
Mm-hmm.
and I was fortunate enough to get it, and said, "Man, this is the opportunity I've been looking for. Big market, big club," and went over there, and from then on, I've never seen the inside of a shop.
What was it? Was it there a learning curve going from where you can where you're working in a pro shop as your assistant job, and let's say
Yeah,
6 8 hours a day, and then you're able to go out and teach, and you have that break in between, and it kind of buffers one over the other. Was
right.
there a learning curve that now you're out there 8 10 hours a day, sometimes maybe 12 in season, and there is no buffer that you're just and you're getting all various levels of
Yes.
students?
Yeah, there was a learning curve, and it's funny. Like man, we were talking about Jason Sutton. He and I always laugh about it. That at that point when I went to teach, I thought, man, you know what? Why am I not like right away teacher of the year here? I thought I knew so much. Oh, I've got this, and then all of a sudden, full time you're doing it, and you're like, wow, it's not as easy as people think. I mean, all of a
Hmm.
sudden there's challenging lessons, or there's scheduling conflicts, or back then, when you're doing everything pen and paper, oh man, there's a double booking, or and learning how to handle that stuff was, I mean, that's a whole nother side learning. Wow, how do I budget my time? Oh, I'm going to teach all day. Well, then all of a sudden you realize, man, that last lesson probably wasn't as good as the first three because I was cashed or whatever. So, yeah, I thought there was a big learning curve, and learning to teach. It's the first time that I'd been in a situation teaching with other instructors. So
Hmm.
you had to navigate different personalities, and, how are people coming in, who's using what. So that was a learning experience as well. So,
What were some of the things that you used or came up with that you could, as you mentioned, you give 3 lessons and you thought they're great, and then you have one that you didn't live up to your standards,
yeah,
and then and then as you're going to either to lunch or the next lesson, you're paying attention here, but part of your mind's like, well, what could I have done better on there?
right.
What did you eventually put into place or learn or teach yourself, implement that became to where you could do a full days and a full week and a full month and a full season and year?
Yeah, man, that's a great question, and I think that the biggest things that I, thinking about it now, it probably wasn't as conscious then, but we had the ability to video the lessons all the time, so I would just run the video nonstop, and then I'd do a little voiceover, and I started watching back
Hmm.
and going, what was I talking about there? Like that, you know, watching yourself give a full lesson, and you have the ums and this and that, but when you can see yourself kind of not fully present in there, you see that on a video, that's humbling. That makes you just
Hmm.
go, God, are you kidding me? Like, really, did I say that? Was I really that person's? I tell younger instructors, I'm like, when you're given a lesson, somebody is coming to you in their leisure time. This is their free time. This is their leisure money. They want to get better. They're paying you. They don't have to be there. And man, you really owe it to them to give 110%. And when I saw a couple lessons where that wasn't the case, that was a shock to the system. And I was like, that's not happening again. You know, let's let's put the hammer down and get better.
Is it something that you would have in your mind that maybe you identified a few things, and then when that situation came up in the next lesson or the course of the time, you just said, hey, I in your mind, it's like, this is what I did. I remember watching myself in this video.
Yeah,
Here's how I think I need to improve on it, and then do
right.
that.
Yeah, and even, yeah, I mean, you know, you look back. I mean, it's still hard to teach all day, right?
Hmm.
You go back to 2000, didn't really have a lot of indoor facilities. The clothing certainly was not conducive to be standing out in 100-degree heat. We're wearing those oversized shirts, and you're sweating, and I'm not the biggest fitness guy, but I started figuring out, man, you got to be drinking water. You've got to, have all these different things in place and you got to have, a 10 or 15-minute break. Occasionally, you've got to have something to recharge to get that into those lessons, and then once I started getting more and more junior students, more like high school elite type students, where the afternoons were longer. Then I really had to start saying, okay, I got to pace myself. If I'm going to start at 8, I'm not going till 8 tonight. I'm going to do an
Mhm.
8 to 5, or I'm going to do a 10 to 7 if that's going to be the case. Because as much as you want to be out there all the time, it's just not can't do it all the time.
No, it's one of those things that you got to, if you're going to help somebody, and as you said, someone's coming in their leisure time and they're coming because they trust you because you're good. You've got to
Yep.
give them that 110%, or else eventually, you have a couple bad ones, and pretty soon that
It's
word gets around,
that word
especially in
spreads fast.
yeah. And I would have to imagine. I mean, I've been here for 30 years, so I haven't been in a major city in a long time. But I'd have to imagine that around here, we're like I always tell people, we're like a big university, and word
Yeah,
spreads
that's a
quickly
good
here.
way to
But I
put
would
it.
have to imagine whether you're in Charlotte or Atlanta, uh, Met section, New York, you pick your city, Chicago, that the private club uh, atmosphere, or the people within those clubs, they talk, and you're like, hey,
It's still a small, yeah.
yes, it's still a small community, and that word's going to spread pretty quick, and you got to be on your game,
And
or
I
else
always thought it was
you're not going to
funny
have a game.
how that, and how it's portrayed. Like, somebody would go, "Oh yeah, I went to so and so. He's a hands and arms teacher." That all that, and I'm like, I'm like really good friends with that guy. It's nothing what he does, but that's what they took from it, or that's what they
Mhm.
heard. And oh, I like this guy, but he's a method guy, and I'm like, they're not a method guy, but if that's what people are saying, right? That's what people are going to hear. And you're right. If you have one bad lesson, one bad review or whatever, can really hurt you. And you gotta, especially I tell young guys, every one you go in, every lesson you go into, man, it's got to be like the this is the most important thing I'm doing right now, and give your all. Um, it doesn't matter if it's a beginner or a tour player or whatever. Um, come in there like you mean it, and give it what they deserve.
I think all young teachers or coaches, and I used to, when the market was really struggling, 15 years ago,
Hmm.
so for extra money, I was teaching at the Golfers Career College, and one of the classes I
Yeah,
had was teaching application, which was the kids. Well, they weren't all kids; they were adults, but was that how do you apply what you've just learned in a teaching scenario? So the
yeah,
first class, second class, and last class, so I whatever it was, 12 weeks was in the classroom, but the rest of it was out. They were giving free lessons. I think we're Eagles Point was the school had the ability to do that.
perfect. Yeah,
And I tell the kids, I said, look, you learn the X's and O's, and a lot of you know it very well. Now you're going to learn, number one, how to apply it, and number two, how to
yeah,
do it on the run. Because, and a lot of them would, a couple of the competent ones who really, this is, YouTube was gaining some traction back then. It hadn't gotten to
yep,
the level it is now, and that they would watch and learn on there and read. Um, but I would say, how many of you guys or girls are ready to go out and teach once you get your diploma and all that stuff? And well,
mm,
I'm confident I'm going to go do this. I said, okay, when you get out of there, your competition is now Tim Cook or
yeah,
me or Andrew
or
Rice or you or Jason Monroe
whoever. Yeah,
or Krista. I said, you're no
yeah,
longer teaching against your fellow classmates. Now you're
right.
you're you're thrown out into the deep end. So keep that in mind. Wasn't trying to knock them. I was just trying to shed some reality on it.
Life, right?
Yes.
And it's
Similar
fun. Go ahead. Sorry.
similar situation with juniors. And juniors are looking, and once they get to college, okay, but you have that conversation with some of these kids who are in college who are really good, and you say, hey, look, you walk off that stage, your competition is now Rory, Justin
Yeah.
Thomas,
Oh yeah.
Scheffler, John Rahm. You're not playing against, this isn't your buddies that
This
you grew
isn't
up with
no.
anymore.
It's funny. I used to when I was coaching, had a big, pretty healthy elite junior academy that I ran in Atlanta, and helping kids get scholarships, and then coaching them through college. And said, when you're in high school, you're really competing, even at the AJGA level, you're competing against 2 years. If you're a junior or a senior, the cream of the crop are really juniors and seniors. I mean, maybe you get a sophomore who's a world beater in there, but you've got a 2 to 3 year thing. Now you go to college. Now you've got 4 years in that age group that you're competing against. So you're 18, maybe you're competing against 21. You graduate, you're competing against 40 years. You know,
Hmm.
I mean, you graduate, you're playing against Phil, who's been out there for, you know, 30 years. You're Rory, all these guys. You didn't have to battle that in high school because the elites, they kind of peaked at 16 to 18, and then they went to college. So that whole stage gets so much bigger. From high school to college, it gets monumental, and then after that, if whatever you're going to do, whether you're going to teach, right, or
Hmm.
play, or I mean, yeah, all of a sudden, how, we see it a lot. I think you see it a lot more now because there's more information, right? When we were coming up, there was no way that me as a part-time instructor was going to get the director of instruction job at Baltusrol or whatever, right? Like
Hmm.
you didn't have that. Somebody's going to make a call and be like this, but now you see these kids. They've had so much certification, YouTube's all this, and they kind of feel, hey, I've got a lot of knowledge, and they do have a lot more knowledge. But like you said, applying it and learning that's the experience part of it.
Yeah.
And I know Todd told me when I was getting ready to teach, I said, what's, because look, here's the difference. He goes, what creates a hook, right? Yeah, I know what causes a hook. He goes, but you've got one way to fix it. I can tell him 6 ways. And he said, once you start learning that experience to where you can go, hey, I've got 6 or 7 ways to explain this. That's the experience of it. First starting out, I mean, yeah, I mean, I did the same thing we were told. Okay, I'm going to check their grip. I'm going to check their posture, and
Hmm.
and then you start going, well, hey, look, here's what they really need, and working down that road. So, um, but yeah, I mean that experience level is huge. I taught on the PGA adjunct faculty for 15 years, and I got in on that simply because I felt like when I went through the program, it didn't give me enough of what I really wanted from a teaching. I mean, there's kind of some basics. I mean, did you go through business schools, or you went to Ferris,
I went
right?
to Ferris, and then I went to back then that exempted you from level one, and then I
Right.
did level two when I was at Long Cove, and then took the interview after that.
Yeah. So I was in the first class of the GPTP right
Hmm.
after they, and so then they had an opportunity they wanted some people to get on. They wanted some young guys and I thought, hey, there's a chance for me to give back. I'm not really super involved in a section yet, but I can do this. And it was awesome. And I loved it. But I said, here's coming up, I wanted to learn how to teach. And I just didn't want to look at a slide that said, oh, here's what, and so I really, really had a lot of fun, had great faculty that we worked with. We traveled all over. We did a lot of the university stuff, and those kids were so passionate, and
Hmm.
at the end of the day, you'd finish all the seminars and there'd be 8 or 9 kids just waiting around, or they'd see you out at dinner and come over and just pick your brain. And I'm like, this is exactly, that was me 10 years ago. Yeah, I'll talk to you all night and hear your ideas, and it's great. I still keep in touch with so many of those guys, and that was rewarding to me, um, because everything in teaching was changing so fast at that point. Everything kind of ramped up so much with technology and internet, and then the explosion of golf.
Yeah, the
Post
Tiger
Tiger.
effect. Yep.
Yep.
Mark Wood. Mark did the golf
Yeah,
edges.
Woody. Yeah, I know.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
worked for him.
when I was at Ferris, he did the teaching
Oh,
seminar.
cool.
So you
Yeah.
had to do. Let me see if I can remember. This is really pulling from memory bank. We had to do golf cart maintenance. That was, and you had there were 4 full weeks. So you had 21 hours of class, in you
Yeah.
started Friday afternoon, and then you were done Sunday evening. So 21 hours in 2.5 days is really what it was.
Jeez.
So there was carts, there was rules, which was miserable. I can't remember the fourth one, but then there was the teaching, and everybody was
Yeah.
engaged in the teaching, and Mark did the teaching portion,
Yeah.
and that's exactly what it was like. We're all asking him questions after class. We probably wore him out. He couldn't wait to get back
Yeah.
to Boca. It was that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was good stuff. I really enjoyed that. Did it as long as I could.
What was that? Now you were one of the first few that got PGA certified in instruction.
Yes.
And now
I
I remember when that came out, and I was now educate me on this, because when it came out, I'm like, look, I just went through all the schooling, I went through all the criteria for school too. I've been sitting there watching Don Trahan, Rick Barry, Ron Cerruto,
right.
and all these guys locally, hour upon hour teaching, because I liked it and I want to do it. I'm like, why would I go get a certification through the PGA when I basically just did that? So what? I know I got to be missing something, and you did it, so I'm very curious to hear.
Well, I guess I got lucky. They actually asked me to be part of the teacher conglomerate to help test and write the program. So Stanford Research wrote the thing, but we kind of came in and did some test questions, compiled some test questions, a lot of that, and then went through, what we would call our certification. And it was still, so then there was five of us who were on that panel, and from doing that, then we were the first five who were certified when they launched the program. So, and it was crazy. I mean, they said, okay, here, they sent us a very huge book, and here's all the things. We want you to write questions. We want you to read these questions, and how are you looking at it? And I always kind of thought, look, it should be difficult. Yeah, you just got your PGA. Somebody who wants to be certified in teaching shouldn't just be somebody who is given 5 lessons a week and says, well,
Mhm.
I can regurgitate the ball flight laws. Oops. Oh man, sorry. I thought I had everything turned off here.
You're good.
Um, so, it should just be it should be somebody, if you really want to be certain that charge more because I am. I think it's nice to have that, and I think it's great. But it's not something that we're, oh, hey, you're certified, I'm going to raise my rate $50 an hour, and I don't think the average person would know any different. You
Hmm.
know, so I think that could be something that could be expanded upon and really grown. But you know, especially at that point in time, there was no way that was going to happen, because we were getting, I mean, so much from, a kid would go home and he was working for a big name teacher at a school, and they would call and say, I can't believe you told him this. This is what we see. And then another guy'd call, hey, my kid came back and you told him that this was right. And what I'm taking, everything was so different back then, right? You go back 25 years ago, everything was, um, there's teachers were kind of combative or
Hmm.
territorial. I'm not going to share my information, and this guy does it this way, this guy does it this way. And I think now that with more information out there, all the science and everything, I think you'd probably have a chance to do a better job of the whole certification or a upper level thing now.
Yeah, and you know what? It seems to happen. I think it'd probably be harder because you have all these certifications through TrackMan
Oh,
and Swing Cattle. It's like all the scientific entities now have their own. Where
right.
I'm not trying to knock the PGA, but they kind of dropped the ball on that. Where if that someone would have been paying a little closer attention to reach out and say, okay, this is what's happening in the scientific industry. Let's go talk to them and see what we can do to develop some type of program for our
It
people who want to be teachers.
That's when I stopped teaching, was right around the radar era.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm a full-fledged flight scope guy now. I'm a prep so, for the area, but I did have a TrackMan at that time, and it's one of the first guys in Atlanta to have a TrackMan. And we're starting to understand. Wow, hey, what we've been teaching is maybe not what's real. And so we'd be sitting in these classes, and we're telling these kids, the slide says, that the path tells you where the ball starts and the face tells you the curve. And I'm thinking, And I started talking to guys. I'm like, look, this may not be correct. And then you start getting some kids coming in who are working at facilities where they have radars, and they're like, well, we heard this, and you, you're kind of like, yeah, you're right, but for the test, you need to believe this. And I started saying, and this isn't. We're supposed to be the ultimate. The PGA is supposed to be the ultimate of this game, right? I mean,
Mhm.
and we need to be on top of that. And they were a little late jumping on the technology thing. And I mean, I remember having some discussions. I mean, after class, kids are like, "Look, I know, and I got a radar, but here's what you need to know for get through this test." So, um, but I kind of felt like that. You're right. They maybe just were a little late,
Mhm.
and as with everything, there's a lot of red tape and trying to
And
get
it's
that.
well, yeah, and it's not a knock because at that time, through the late '80s into the '90s, the PGA was growing exponentially,
Yeah.
and I think at that time that they were looking at ways like, okay, all you got to do is work at a course. Your interview or to membership is basically go have some beers and some peanuts
Hmm.
at a local bar, and then your
Yeah.
friends approve you and you're in. And they were getting so many inundated with so many people getting in that I think that their focus was on, look, we got to make this a little more rigid and weed
Right.
out some people who are just doing it to do it, and keep it to the people who really really want to be in it.
Yeah.
That things were changed. You said things were changing at that time so fast with technology, and that it's not a knock on them. It's just like that they
No,
missed it. But what else? You can only have so much time in a day.
that's right. Well, it's funny. I was talking to one of my friends the other day, and we were talking about how let's just take tour golf has changed, right? So,
Hmm.
when we were coming up, right? If you went out to a tour event in '93 and you were standing by the landing area and there's three guys teeing off, you'd know, oh, well, that's Azinger. Oh, there's Norman. You could see it from down the fairway, right?
Hmm.
And then the Tiger era came along with where everything, all teaching was video, right? We all wanted to. There was a look, right? And if you went to a tour event in the early 2000s and 2002, maybe 2005, 6, and you're standing in the landing area, it was hard to determine who was teeing off up there because so many swings looked the same. you know
Hmm.
Everybody was trying to get a certain look. Now if you saw an older guy, or Furyk, yeah, you could recognize him. But there's so many guys coming out of college that had modeled just video and really just modeled Tiger. Those swings all kind of had similar looks to them.
Hmm.
And then over the last 10 years, it's kind of gone back. And now it's almost like every good player that you see, I mean, nobody's going to mistake Scotty Scheffler for Rory or
No.
Rahm for, DJ. I mean, but because they've kind of learned, okay, we're going to use club fitting and radars and all this, and we're just going to be efficient and we're going to let our body work the way we want. And so now it's like, okay, now it's not really how does it look, it's how does it perform. And so it's kind of come full circle, I mean,
Hmm.
which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah, the individualization that we're we're able to measure as an industry now with all the technology, flight scope,
Yeah.
TrackMan, force plates,
Yeah.
K vests, and then even the work as we saw it at Coach Camp when Mike Adams with
Yeah.
his whole measurement system and
So
individualing guys
cool.
that way. It's very cool that it's like, well, we knew that people were, as you said, have come full circle. We knew people were individualized way back or
Yeah.
forever. And then it kind of got, well, let's put everyone in this box. And now it's
Yeah.
shifted back to individualization again. Now we can
Yeah.
tell you what you do and why.
Right. It's truly amazing that Tiger figured all that out. Right? What he was doing coming out it was so earth shattering because we hadn't seen it. But yeah, now you start seeing these guys that you know. I remember. Well, I remember at Coach Camp they said they were talking about Randy Smith saying he'd gone
Hmm.
to Swing Catalyst and said, "Hey, I'm getting a lot of slack about Scotty's footwork. People are saying I should change it. Like, no, don't
No.
touch it. Like it's fabulous. But you know 25 years ago, I mean, I know as a kid, I went up on my toes and somebody told me, oh no, you got to keep that foot down.
Hmm.
Thanks. But we just know what we know, right? And now it's starting to open up so much more. We just got Swing Catalyst, the force play at Long Cove, which has been so much fun and so much easier to help people. And it's not like you know it's a ton of tour players coming through, but getting people to understand some simple movements and maybe use the ground better, use their balance better, all that kind of stuff makes it so much easier, especially for people who are doing everything they can to you know hit it as far as they can at a certain age or play more golf, pain free, injury free.
Hmm.
uh, and that's just I mean, people look at it and they're like, I'm like, yeah, you couldn't see this. I could not see this. There's not,
There's no way to
but
measure
now
it.
we can measure it, and so we can make it better and faster and play more pain free through that technology, which is super cool.
Yeah, because a lot of people think it's just the tour players, the long drive. It's like, no,
Yeah,
yeah, of course it helps them because it identifies things. But if you're trying to play, as you mentioned, for the demographic that we a lot of this area is if you want to play more often and without pain and or reduce the pain,
yeah,
it's as great a tool for doing that as it is for getting uh any of the long drive guys
right,
to
yeah.
hit an extra 5 yards when they're already hitting at 400.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't need Mrs. Smith to max out her vertical force, but at the same time, if we can move a little better, take some pressure off maybe some bad joints that they have that allows them to pick up 3-4 miles an hour club head speed, which is monumental at
Hmm.
that level, and go, wow, I played and I wasn't as tired and I felt better, and I've been having a bad hip and now um, that's like you said, that's the same as a long drive guy picking up a couple extra miles an hour. So
Do you ever get any of the feedback to where someone says like, "Boy, all I have to do is that little thing, and that's what I used to do 10 years ago, and now I'm hitting it 8, 10 yards longer." Is
yeah,
is it
yeah.
ever that small of a where they're like,
Sometimes,
"Wow,
I mean, especially when you see the people who, let's just take like keeping their left heel on the ground for a righty, right? Oh, I'm
hmm
keeping the foot down. Well, hey, look, why don't you just turn back here? Well, my foot came off the ground. Okay, okay, your heel came up. Well, that's great. And I had a guy the other day who's like, well, I've been trying to keep that down. And I'm like, well, you're 77 years old now. Why? Well, I did it 20 years ago, and it was funny. I told him, I said, look at the three people, and I'm not saying this is the only way. I'm just reference. I said, look at the three people who the oldest major winners and tour player winners. Okay, you got Snead, you got Jack, you got Phil.
hmm
What are their foot? They all had a lot of let that kind of come up, a lot of motion in there, and none of them were ever injured. So,
that's right."
they played well into their 50s. And I said, look, I'm not saying that's the only way. I mean, I know how the internet goes. Like you say that, and then everybody,
Somebody's gonna pick it apart.
right. Yeah. But, I said, look, just allowing people to get into something that puts less restriction on their body. Um, the members at Long Cove, they're very
Hmm.
active. A lot of walkers, people playing well into their 80s and 90s. Um, and they take good care of themselves. But if we can do something that makes that a little less stress on their body or gives them a little bit more without working as hard, man, that's a gift, you know? So it's a lot of
Yeah,
fun for them.
it's a similar goal to get them better. It's just a different goal that based
Yeah,
off the individual
right.
you're working with.
Yep.
Uh, now you've done a lot of work with juniors. And as you said,
Yep.
you had a big junior program. Um, some of the benefits to juniors are obvious. You get to work with young kids, have some
Right.
influence on their development.
Yeah.
But just jump into that a little bit if you wouldn't mind, because you have spent a lot of time around them and you've done a lot of great work with kids.
And I love it. I loved it. I was so passionate in Atlanta when I was fortunate. I got with some good people who had some cool programs. Like I think I was the first Op 36 program in Georgia,
Hmm.
and that was, and I was involved with the U.S. Junior National Team, which had a super protocol for juniors where, you're doing benchmarking and, you know, started changing how, okay, let's put small groups, and everybody wanted individual, but once we started doing some small groups with benchmarks is where I really saw the huge jump in the juniors. Competing with each other, having fun. Each day we're going to do some kind of crazy skills challenge. We're going to flop it over the net into a swimming pool, and just different things like that, and challenging it. And I loved it. And you're seeing these kids at an age to where they really have, if they have the passion, I mean, I'm going to match that passion 150%. A couple kids who came in freshman year and, hey, I didn't make my high school team. Coach told me, hey, you're not, you know, maybe golf isn't your thing. And they're like, but I want to play. And I had three kids who didn't make their team their freshman year. All three signed letters of intent their senior year. And I'm like, their high school coach was kind of like, look, it's not for you. And they're like, no, 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 I want to do this. And well, hey, then let's do it. I mean, let's have some fun. Let's see how good we can become. And when you have those kids that are really passionate about it, and you start mirroring that, and going the extra mile. Hey, what? And it's a lot more than golf swing. You know that,
Hmm.
as good as anybody. It golf swing is very little. It's a part, but it's how do you play? I mean, and you get the story. Every high school kid come in. Well, yesterday I sliced one on four and made double, and I need to work on that slice. I'm like, you hit one shot right. That's not. And then the whole parent thing is a whole nother. I
Oh,
mean, that's
it's getting
we
worse.
finally got it to where we had like a basically a parent training. Hey, look, here's what we're going to do, and I know I did it. I'm a parent. You are spending a lot of money on your kid. We want them to do the best that they can. I understand. I'm open to any questions. I will answer anything you want about why I'm telling them something or what I see. I'll help you with scheduling, college visitations, all that stuff. But I also need you to kind of you know do your role. And I remember I had a kid who was he was so talented, and he was just kind of struggling. Just hadn't really broken through. I knew he had it. He kind of, and you could tell there's some stuff going on. His parents were divorced and didn't weren't friendly. They didn't
Hmm.
speak. And um, one day he just said, I just feel like if I go out and play bad, my parents have spent so much money that they're just, And so I called both parents and I said, I want you both to sit in here. And the dad was like, look, I haven't been in the same room with his mom in 3 years. And I'm like, well, we're doing it, and he's going to sit here. And I'm like, got the parents, and I'm like, look, tell him if he shoots 80, but he's out here working every day. He's not goofing off. He's not going out drinking after school. He's coming out to the range. He's trying. He's really putting his heart into it. If he shoots 80 every day, do you still love him? And they're like, yeah, we just want him to be happy. And I'm like, now, if you're paying all this money and he's not trying, then we've got
Hmm.
a conversation. They're like, yeah, absolutely. They're like, and when we walked out of that room, we were in my little office, a Golf Club of Georgia, and we walked out. Parents said thanks and left, and I was walking over to the student, and he was like in tears, and it was like almost like he finally had this weight lifted off him that, hey, my parents, I mean, he knew they loved him, but he felt this pressure of what it costs to play AJGA and stuff. Well, then he goes on a heater, he wins two AJGAs, he gets a scholarship to South Carolina, and it was just like the freedom. And it wasn't me doing anything. It's just we had to get all those pieces together where he didn't feel that you know that pressure of, wow, my parents are watching every shot, and if I am I not living up to what he wanted to do for them.
Hmm.
And those parents, I mean, I get it. If I'm spending money on my kids, I want to know. But you know there's a lot of, why isn't my 14-year-old out driving Billy who's 14? Well, your 14-year-old is 5'1", Billy is 5'8", and has kind of hit a growth spurt. And Oh, no, I always loved it. We've got a big tournament this weekend. I'm like, it's a tournament. It's not a big tournament. You know, it's a 1 day 18-hole tournament. It's not a big. If it's not going to determine the rest of their career, it's going to help them. Yeah,
Hmm.
take it as a tournament, but that's not going to determine if you're going to be a major winner. Just
That's
put it
interesting
in
how you say
perspective.
that about the kids and seeking the approval of both parents, especially in a difficult home
Yeah,
situation where they're separated or divorced. And I'll never forget a few years ago, as I was a podcast fan before I obviously got into podcasting, and
yeah, right.
my brother says, you got a man crush on Tim Ferriss, or you did. And I said,
Oh
well, read
yeah,
his
he's the
book. And,
best.
right now
Yeah.
he does. So Tim Ferriss was, and one of the biggest reasons I got into podcasting. Uh,
Okay. Yeah, makes
so
sense.
I said, look, he knows all these people. I said, I know all these people in the golf world. I've been in and around the business since I was a caddy at 11 years old.
Yeah.
And then I played for a living. I met all these people. I said, why couldn't I? No, I'm not saying I'm Tim Ferriss. Again, as we get into people
Right.
listening and I'm going to post some goofy shit on the internet, not saying I'm Tim Ferriss by any means. Love to be in the golf
Yeah.
segment, but I'm not. But I'm like, yeah, why don't I start and getting people like you and Andrew and all the people I've had
Yeah.
on, let me get their story out there. But I was a big documentary guy, and Tim
Oh yeah,
always
yeah.
had on. He always had on Tony Robbins, and Tony Robbins from the time we were in high school was always on TV, and I'm like, oh, here we
Right.
go,
Yeah.
another rah rah
Yeah.
guy. So
Yeah.
finally, I listened. We're driving somewhere upstate, and I said, well, all right. Tony's been on Tim's show 4 times. I might as well listen to it. I got 4 hours in the car, and I'm like,
Right.
wow, this is actually really good stuff. And then that led me to watching the documentary I'm Not Your Guru, because I'm a huge
Right.
documentary guy.
Right. Great. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yes, and what stuck with me, it stuck out big time, was when Tony asked that one. I think it was one of the guys. He said that your belief system is formed when you're a kid and you don't even know it, and it's largely involves your parents. And he asked them the two questions: which parent um, approval did you seek more, or love did you seek
Yeah.
more? And then it was what did you have to do to get that acknowledgement from that parent? And then that usually drives somebody's belief system. And to your point with that young kid, he's sitting there trying to think that if he plays better, then his parents might get back together, or everything at home
Right.
would be better. And then you got to show him that that's not it. You kid, your
Yeah.
focus is in the wrong way, but you can't, there's nothing you can do to change that except for what you did.
Yeah. And yeah, it's funny. You talk about all this. I have a joke with my family that I won't watch a movie that either can't really happen or didn't really happen. So like documentaries, that's what I watch. Okay, that's we'll watch some comedy stuff. I mean, I'm a big Step Brothers fan, but like sci-fi and stuff like that. It's not.
Hmm.
So I'm a documentary guy, and we're talking, about early days when I was at Elk River. There's a guy named Bob Sierra, and he was Nicholas's partner, Nicholas Sierra. They built Avila Country Club in the South, Elk River, and so I would pick his brain, and I said, here I am, hot shot 24-year-old. Hey, Mr. Sierra, what do you think I need to do in my career? And I'm in my mind thinking he's going to go, Rob, you're a freaking rock star, man. We should have you as the head guy at. And he goes, you need to go to like a Tony Robbins seminar. What do you mean? He's like, you got to get like if this is going to be your life, like you need to go and start seeking out these ways to like be really good, really understand things. And I was like, wow, man, I mean, I never really heard of it. So I get the book and I start reading and I start going, wow, hey, maybe there's something to this. But he was just very straightforward. Hey, yeah, well, yeah, I think you need a little more of this, you need a little more of this. You probably got enough of this. You could probably pull back on this, but you know, go seek this and make yourself a better person. And that was my first experience into any of that. That was long before podcasts. That's where you had to go actually buy the paperback. But there's those eye-opening things where you think you're a hot shot, and then somebody really who knows, and if you respect their opinion and take it, you can learn
Hmm.
a lot from it. So,
Yeah, learning is never easy. There's always but
yeah.
I mean, well, the fact that you went out and asked somebody is a credit to you wanting to continue to to get better, improve whatever, the craft of teaching at that time, or
Yeah.
just development of yourself. So something inside there was saying, unless it was just ego and saying, yeah, I want just someone to pat
No.
me on the back, and it's like slapping it upside the head. Hey,
Yeah. No, I think, I know you're obviously super inquisitive, ask, I mean, that's what you do here, and
mhm,
I've always kind of been the same way, I grew up in a very small rural area. So getting outside of that was fascinating to me. And, I always liked when I got to know people through on the lesson tee or whatever. Hey, what did you do? Basically, how did you make your money, and it's so cool what you hear. I remember I was
mhm.
teaching a guy at Elk River, and I said, "Well, what'd you do?" And he goes, "Well, I was in the auto industry." I'm like, "Oh, okay, car dealer?" No, no, no. I kind of made some parts, and so I made this part for GM, and it was going to be in every car. And I'm like, "That's genius." He goes, "No, no, no. That was a good idea." He goes, "But right before we made it, I changed it so that you had to have a special tool to work on it. So now every mechanic who wanted to work on a GM car had to have that tool." He goes, "That was genius, Rob." I'm like, "Wow, you're right. That is, but how do you do that? And there's no blueprint of, oh, if you just have to do things this way. You've got to, be creative, think about it, play to whatever your strengths are. And, I especially when I talk to young teachers, I tell them that there's two moments, very specific moments in my golf career that definitely shaped how I approach lessons. And one was an epic failure. I'm teaching a guy, he comes out, and you know he's slicing it. I'm through I wasn't teaching full time yet. Kind of, okay, we're going to strengthen the grip, man. Let's get the Harley on here. We're about 40 minutes into it. He's had a couple that are pretty good. He's had some rope hooks, some tops. I mean, I'm just
Mhm.
cranking this thing over, and like, you're gonna hit some left and this and that. And he's like, what do I do tomorrow? And I'm like, well, it's gonna take some time. And he's like, no, I'm flying to Oakmont tomorrow for the member guest.
Oh boy.
Well, I didn't ask. I just assumed the guy's slicing. And I mean, what we should have done was gone in and got in a bathtub and try to stop putts before they get to the drain, right? Teach him how to. I'm like, he didn't ask to fix the slice, but I didn't ask, so I'm
Mhm.
just jumping in there, and I'm thinking, this guy's got an epic event coming, and I probably made it pretty bad for him. Won't know because I don't think he ever came after that, because I'm sure I ruined it for him, but it was my own fault for not asking. Why are you here? What's going on? Tell me about, and if you said, hey, I'm playing in Oakmont member guest and I need to learn how to pitch it and stop it on a fast green, hey, we would have done that, Oh,
Mhm.
I play a slice. Oh, okay. I just figured that's what we needed to stop. And so I said, you gotta dig in. And I know we all say that initial interview, and oh, do you have it? But you really got to dig in why somebody is there. And then because of that, it was probably 10, 12 years later, a guy comes out and never new client, never seen him. Um, he comes out. I'm like, hey, tell me what's going on, man. What's happening? And he's like, well, my 13 daughter was killed in a car accident. She was hit by a car 3 days ago, and
Jeez.
my wife just told me to come out here and take a golf lesson to see if I can get my mind off of it. And like instantly, like there's two high school kids hitting balls next to us. Instantly, we're gone. Get in the
Mhm.
cart. You know, let's go out on the golf course. Let's hit some pitch shots. Hey, look, oh, hey, you want to come over here? You want to try to skip some balls off the water? Yeah, let's do that. A couple times he started talking about things. We sat there, kind of had some emotional stuff, and then, hey, let's go on up here, and hey, you know what? How many? What different clubs could we use to maybe get this ball close? I mean, the guy didn't really play golf. He really didn't care if he played golf. But
Mhm.
once again, if I hadn't had that failure, I might not have asked. Hey, let's hit some 7 irons. And, all of a sudden there's two 14-year-olds behind there laughing and joking, and he's just going to be a wreck.
Yep.
And, but but I think the experience level gave me the opportunity to go, okay, hey, look, we got to change the situation and totally take this a different direction. But if I hadn't had the failures, I wouldn't have done that. So it was still a hard one. I mean, it's still hard to talk. I mean, remember it like it was yesterday, and it's 15, 20 years ago, but
It's amazing
but
how things like that that stick in your mind.
yeah,
There are certain lessons that don't ever leave,
they don't leave.
for,
Yeah,
for a number of different reasons.
yeah,
Yeah, one thing I want to touch on is you're a very big music guy. You got the guitars there behind you.
well, you
But
can't see the other side. That's where most of them are.
I couldn't even imagine. I mean, you got three on.
Yeah.
If you've got three sitting in a stand on the floor, then I know there's got to be a ton of them on the wall and around the house.
Yeah, I think there's a few more over there
Yeah.
too. A few back there, a few back behind me.
And if anyone follows you, they know you're Jesus. They know you're a music fan and you're pretty damn good at it. Um, I have a when I was a kid, I was a musical. Or
Yeah.
I have a musical family. There's a
Okay.
lot of music in our family background, and I was introduced to it, and I kind of got out of it by the time I was in high school. I'm like, look, Mom, I'm playing
Yeah.
sports. I'm not doing
You're
this
right.
goofy,
Yeah.
not doing this band stuff anymore. I'm into sports. But you have an understanding of tempo and rhythm and things like that. Not to your level, of course, but do you find out that you're able to utilize that in some respects? So in order to help somebody swing, especially for the demographic you're dealing with that might not identify with angles and positions, and you can get them more into, I want you to swing to the rhythm of this or to the tempo of this, and then
Yeah.
it kind of falls back. And I relate it to, if somebody's having some discomfort, stomach ache, headache, whatever
Right.
you want to have, then you go into some deep breathing and some relaxation, and you kind of reset the body's tempo and rhythm,
Yeah.
and next thing you know, the pain is dissipated. So,
Right.
as someone who's very, very involved in the music, uh, and a golf coach, I just wanted to see if you've
Yeah.
utilized that and how do you do it.
I do. And it's funny. And I'm, despite being musician, I'm my rhythm is not great. Ask the drummer in my band, and he's always like, "Bro, click track, click track." So, um, a funny story with that, and I'll kind of answer the question in a long way. So, when I was in Atlanta, we had the first made mat system, the 3D motion capture that's now
Hmm.
Gears. So they had one in Carlsbad. The very first one, other than that, was at my facility, and so we got a lot of people to come in. And so TaylorMade would send. They called me and they said, "Hey, we're sending you this guy. He's a musician. We want him to come in and get fit." And I'm like, "Oh, cool. This will be great." And so he comes in and we start talking. And it turns out that we had both played guitar in the same band in Illinois growing up at different
Jeez.
times. I played, he played, and we're chit chatting, and I didn't recognize his name or anything. And so we're talking, and he goes, "Oh, actually, we're going on tour, and we're going to Champaign." And the words are coming out of my mouth. "Oh, you're going to play at Mabel's?" Well, Mabel's is the bar where you play if you're a bar band, right? That's where you play. The words are coming out of my mouth. And he goes, "Yeah, we had to add a second night because we sold out the assembly hall the first night." And I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. Assembly hall, that's a whole different deal." Turns out he was in a band called Third Day, Grammy winning Christian rock band, and super cool. And he wasn't much of a golfer. But so we're recording his swings right on the mat system, and it measured tempo and timing, and he's hitting almost. I mean, if you saw his impact position, it was basically the equivalent of a tour player, very centered.
Hmm.
But every swing was to the hundredth of a second at the same time, and I'm like, well, yeah, this makes sense. Guy makes a living tapping his foot, right?
Hmm.
And so I do find, it's kind of a long answer, but yeah, I like to find the rhythm that people need, um, and trying to get them some way to feel some rhythm. A lot of people don't feel any rhythm, you know. It's yank it, slow back, fast down, or whatever they're trying to do, um, and to try to get some, I relate a lot of things to kind of the music thing. Hey, let's tap our foot here, or hey, what's the song that kind of goes along this way, and having them make, I'm a big like continuous swing person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's make 4 continuous swings, because if one thing's going too fast, it's going to eventually going to have to match back up. And hey, let's start feeling that. So I do like to kind of get them into a rhythm. On that same token, my probably my favorite type of student is somebody who is a musician. Whether it was I've taught some opera singers, some classical people, but because in the musician side, you kind of understand, you lock yourself in a room for hours playing the same scales with a metronome. You don't just walk in and go, well, hey, I'm going to take this up today and I'm going to play like this rock star. You kind of know how it takes. And so they kind of look at golf the same way, right? Like, it's going to take me time. I'm going to have to do certain work. I'm going to have to practice fundamentals, and I have to practice, you know, all parts of this to get to that. And because they've trained in music and learned that, they have that kind of mentality where, sometimes, like, I mean, taught a lot of professional athletes in Atlanta. I mean, a guy who's a great football player is maybe a great athlete, and that can be a blessing and a curse in golf. They can get
Mm-hmm.
away with some stuff, but then they can also not do some stuff because it's almost so easy in other sports. Um, so I really like to get those people that kind of understand, hey, look, I'm going to have to work through all these different things to get there. And so whenever I have somebody who has some sort of a musical background or has done something like that, I'm like, okay, their expectations are going to be pretty simple here, as far as, hey, we're going to work up to this. And I use the example a lot. If you went to a fourth grade band rehearsal, and you walk in and you're like, I hear the band, and I think I think they're playing the Star Spangled Banner. Maybe, like, you can hear, the kids are, they might be playing a little bit of the wrong note, but a lot of them are playing the right notes, but there's no rhythm, right? Like, the tuba's playing here and the drums going here and trumpets over here. But you play the symphony, they're playing the same notes, but why does it sound so much better? Well, the rhythm's in there, there's that balance of the swing. So yeah, a lot of the music stuff certainly plays into it. It probably plays less into the rhythm side for me, more into maybe a little bit more the creative side of how I kind of approach things. I'm a little left of center on most things, and kind of it is what it took to do things musically. So it's probably a little bit more of that side of it. Probably falls into my teaching.
Well, I asked that because I'm very interested to see how people do that. Eric
Mhm.
Henriksen from Ping
Yep. Hmm.
was on God, last week, um, and I asked him. I said, "How do you go? I mean, most of your staff and your team are PhDs and you're scientists,
Yeah.
and you're working in the technical aspect of club design and everything else." I said, "How do you go from that mindset, whether left brain, I think it is,
Yeah.
and then but the whole mantra of the company is a creative innovation
Yeah.
of an industry. It's like, how do you just shut it off and flip it over?" And it was very interesting. His response was that they actually schedule it. They schedule creative
Oh,
sessions.
wow. Really?
He's like, yeah, he said, we'll set, I don't remember, it was every 2 weeks or once a month or whatever it was, but they'll sit
Yeah.
around and say, okay. And they basically sit around a table and okay, here's what we know about this. Marty Jurtson,
Really?
what do you think about it? And
Yeah.
Chris Brody, what do you think about it? Paul Wood, and then they'll just sit there and something will, he said, something will come out of that where someone will
Yeah.
start thinking creatively. And then a couple of days later, they're coming back and say, hey, can we tweak this and try it? Because I have this
Yeah.
idea.
That's really
But
cool.
because I told him I have a very difficult time in if I'm reading up on Sasha's latest paper on
Yeah.
scientific whatever, and then I'm trying to do technical stuff on the podcast, and then you're teaching it. Someone wants to know the dynamics of this. To all of a sudden flip a switch and try to do something creatively. If I'm doing artwork
Yeah.
for the post, it's very in my brain. It just doesn't. It gets like a traffic jam, like 278 coming off
Yeah.
the island at five
Exactly.
o'clock. So yeah, I'm very curious to learn more about how people do that because I that's a struggle I do myself. I think might have to just start scheduling. Hey, this day
That's
you're
a
going to
good
do
idea.
the
Yeah.
creative
I
stuff.
mean, I know I'm the opposite. If I have to do anything technical, and yeah, I've got to kind of be locked down in a room and do that.
Hmm.
You know, the come up with some crazy idea that's happening all the time, and usually it's pretty stupid, the stuff that I think of. Um, but I'll try anything.
Hmm.
And but the technical side for me is the hard part. If you put a spreadsheet in front of me, I'm kind of lost. Thank God I know people that can do that, so pay them.
In because you're a creative guy. Obviously, Eric is a engineer. But the one thing that I have found that would be the common denominator for people of different mindsets or ways they gravitate to more about being creative is they're all coming from they're into something and they're watching it constantly, and then something in their brain is remembering different things, and then something is picking up that's like, hey, if we do this, then if we tweak it a little bit, I think this might happen. But and that doesn't come
Yeah,
without the experience, as we talked about earlier on
right.
as teachers. And I think that's what young teachers, one thing they're lacking is the experience. They might know the X's and O's as you
Yeah,
discussed, but
I
they're,
mean, yeah, it's
the
super easy to say. Yeah, here's
creativity for them is not going to come, as you said. Todd had 6 ways to cure a hook and you had one,
yeah,
because he had done it and he had seen it a million times
yeah,
and he developed those ways.
yeah, and you see the personality traits of somebody, right? Like,
Hmm.
I'm not going to tell a 75-year-old member at Long Cove who has two knee replacements the same thing I was telling a kid who's playing golf for the University of Georgia, who's an All SEC player. That their bodies aren't the same.
Hmm.
Their goals aren't the same. There's nothing the same other than they both want to advance this little white ball a little farther and get in the hole a few shots better. And but yeah, you look at that, and I think it's like we said, there's so much good information out. I mean, how did we learn to teach when we were coming up? There was a handful of books, right? Oh man, I'm
Hmm.
going to read Jack's book, and I've got Tom Watson's book, and then all of a sudden some other things came out, and I'm going to watch guys teach, right? And if you were fortunate, you might have four different guys you could watch. Like you down here on the island, you had a few different
Yep.
guys, and maybe one taught a little different than the other, and maybe that. But now, man, you can go on YouTube, and I mean, hell, it may be a plumber with a golf YouTube. I mean, you don't know, right? But hey, if they bang the drum loud enough, but at least you can find and you can seek these things out, and but you can learn all that, right? And that's like what we were talking about with the parents, right? Parents of these high school kids, man, they're watching all the YouTube, and
Hmm.
hey, why aren't we doing this? I saw this thing on here, and I love this guy, and it's funny. I get it now. A lot of membership has time, and they're watching YouTube, and they come, well, I kind of got the Chuck Cook backswing here, and never I got this, I'm watching this guy, and then I got Dredge Gankus. I'm like, okay, let's just kind of throttle this down into your swing, and it's great to get that information, and you can kind of trial and error and see if something clicks with you. That's awesome. Let's stay in our lane a little bit here.
Exactly. What is someone who's been in the industry for, God, coming up on 3 decades or
Yeah.
plus? What surprises you most about coaching and teaching?
I
Be it
think that
either your own or as you see and you've experienced that side of the industry for so long.
I think that a couple things. I think it's a great question. I think that when you watch really good coaches, it looks pretty simple, right? Like, oh wow, they saw that, and if I'm sitting there and if I'm watching you or Tim or Sutton teach, and they go, okay, hey, look, I'd like your arm to do this or your wrist to do this. After they say it, you look at it and you go, oh yeah, yeah, makes perfect sense, right?
Hmm.
But if you didn't know that before, wow, what are your eyes going to? And I think it's such an art, to the people that can do it really, really well. Look at something and go, okay, look, here's what I see that if we change this, that's going to change or improve three other things, right? And I think people kind of look at it and go, well, that's probably pretty easy, but it's not. It gets easier with experience. Yeah, it's easy when you hear them say, do this, and then you look at it again and you go, oh, yeah, I can totally see that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you didn't see it at first. And I think that's where, most people go, oh, well, you teach. Oh, yeah. Well, how hard is it to cure a slice? Well, yeah, you're right. Okay. But I will tell you, there's nothing more rewarding. I mean, I guess if I was smart to be like a doctor and save somebody's life, that's probably pretty rewarding. But man, it's fun when you get somebody that I always say they come in and they see me and they're in an unhappy place because their game's in shambles or they have a problem with it. They're not shooting, and if they leave and they're happy, and then you see them the next day and they're high fiving you, going, man, I had my best round, or now I shot my age, or you know, that's rewarding, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's way more fun for me than me playing better golf. I don't play enough golf, play good or bad now, but it's fun to get somebody, and when you start seeing that light bulb go off and they start, wow, I can feel this. This feels easier. It's more fun, and they want to play more. I mean, you get so many people. I'm ready to get rid of my clubs, and I'm no, look, we'll get it. But I think the great the great instructors that you see, yeah, it looks very easy, but they're looking at certain things, and that's one of the things that when I was playing, I always kind of looked at what are guys looking at, because certainly there's guys that will look at what the club's doing, right? That's I mean, we all have, you have focus, so, do I? Some people looking at what the body does, You got your brother. He's probably looking at what the dynamics of the club are doing, right? A fit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, hey, if we adjust this, maybe this. And I think it's cool how people look at different things. I mean, there's certainly people that see, hey, I focus a little more on this, or I focus a little more on this. Um, and there's not a manual that says this is what you have to do, right? I mean,
That's right.
you and I could get, and I always thought that my suggestion for the PGA back in the day was that they get 10 coaches, and maybe one's a back then, okay, let's say a body guy, an arms guy,
Mm-hmm.
a fitter, and we all give a 30-minute lesson to the same guy, independent, right? And then you just put them in a library, and so guys can go watch, and they can basically shadow all these lessons.
That's a great
And
idea.
they go, man, like, that was really cool. Pete addressed this with this guy, and that really worked. And Rob didn't address that, but he addressed this, and that worked too. And then this guy came in, and he talked about something none of the other guys talked about, but wow, that made sense as well. And I said, do it for different demographics, and just have this library out there for young coaches to watch and see that there's not a way. There's
Mm-hmm.
there's multiple ways, and if you I don't remember who told me this. It was a long time ago. I was at a proponent group thing or something, and I think he worked for Hank Haney at the time out in Texas. And he said, "Look, man," he goes, I said, "What's it like?" And he goes, "It's the greatest lesson." He goes, he picks one thing, and he's like, "Here's what we're doing," and then he is just the biggest cheerleader, and that's it. He's never jumping off target. And I mean, well, your brother I know worked
Mm-hmm.
for Hank here, right? Yeah. So I
Yep.
mean, I've never had a lesson with Hank, so I don't know. But I just remember this guy. We were like staying in the same house, and he's like, he's on it, and he's staying on it, and he's a cheerleader, and he gets it done, and there's no variable. And I'm thinking, man, I remember like my first year of lessons. Man, if that next shot wasn't perfect, we were jumping to something else. Okay, let's try. No, let's try this. Well, let's try this. I'm like, see what it is. If you believe in it, coach them through. And then it's way more coaching than it is teaching at this point,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, I guess for me at least.
Is there anything, theories or ideas you have that a lot of contemporaries that you know or talk to them about think that they're crazy? So
I
as we're
think
speaking of
most,
experience, and you've
yeah,
seen a lot, and you've got an idea about something.
I would say most of my contemporaries think I'm crazy. Hey, that's probably where we'd start. You know, the thing that I did, that, and I bounced this off some good friends of mine, Joe Howlett and Eric Alpenfels and those guys. As far as I know, I was the first guy to do this. In 2002, I decided I was going to give unlimited lessons. So you could buy an unlimited lesson pack for the year. And I had this idea and I called these guys, and I remember Howlett going, "It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, but I think you will kill it. And I think it'll work." And I said, "Okay, I'm going to do it." I structured it up. I'm going to do 10. And it was awesome. And I did it for like 15 years. It was fabulous. It worked well in all areas financially, and people improved and all that. And I know people thought I was crazy. I remember when I put the signs up and said, "I'm fully committing to doing this." We were Georgia Tech's home course, and Chris Mickelson, a kid who I taught at Georgia Tech, came out. He goes, "Man, you better get up there. Somebody put a sign up that said you're giving unlimited lessons for the year." And I'm like, "Chris, that was me." He's like, "It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of." I'm like, "Yeah, I know, but I'm going to try it." Um, but from a philosophy standpoint, when I was learning, and we were talking the same thing, right? You back in the '90s, I know that I could go in my closet in here and find mine, and you've probably got one, and Sutton's got one. These binders where we cut out all those Golf Digest swing sequences, right? They'd have, Faldo and Norman, and you'd cut them out, and then I'd get on there and start drawing lines like, what am I looking for, and what's different, and my goal was I wanted to find similarity about these players that I'd never heard anybody mention. Okay, so I just wanted to find my own idea on that, and the thing that I found, and this is about just looking through these things, and guys are hitting persimmons and stuff. So, but I noticed that the long hitters, all their right arm was above their left going back. And then
Mm-hmm.
I remember there's one of Paven in there, and his is under here. And then I'm like, okay, so maybe that's something, and now you start seeing body lines and, all the different metrics. But I remember trying, like, spending like hours, like looking through what's different. Is there, and that was one of the few things that I saw that I was like, okay, well, there's something, and I hadn't heard it before. And not that I ever taught it, it was just something that I made a mental note. But from a philosophy standpoint, and this is one of the things that I've kind of held on to for 25 years, that if I could computer create a golfer, if I could, which hell, we may be there before we know it, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's two things that I would want. I'd want the hands to stay in front of the sternum and the shaft to stay between the forearms. And I figured if I could keep the shaft between their forearms and their hands in front of the sternum, they'd probably hit it pretty solid. So that's kind of always been my kind of swing. If I could design it, um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you could go too wrong with that. Not everybody can do it for sure, but that's kind of my, if I could do it, that'd be where I'd start with.
That'd be pretty cool. I
Yeah.
think it's a great idea. Both of them.
Well,
And I never had
so
enough of a lesson pool that I had the idea of one time to do. You can go X amount of lessons per month,
yeah,
quarterly, half a year, or a year. Here's all in your price. I just never had enough in the stable to to
yeah,
to get anyone to buy into that at one time. That we're going to stick with the 3 lesson package or the 5 lesson.
yeah. It worked out, and I will tell you that for the 12, 14 years I did it, 70%, um, they would improve. I mean, there'd be 3 people. I limited it to 10, so I had 10 people in that stable, and every year 3 of the 10 would end up spending over $1,000 on lessons because they would buy it and just wouldn't use it. But then
Wow.
they'd usually re-up. They're just like, okay, I got it here if I want it. And I had a guy, my one of my big success stories that I love is this guy came to me and he said, he's interviewing me, thinking about this program. I said, okay. He goes, my best score is 110. I average 120, and I want to shoot par. Okay, for like a hole? No, I want to shoot par for 18 holes for a year. Can we do it? I said, yeah, we can do it. We can do it. He's like, you're the first coach that told me we can do it. I said, do you have time? Yeah. You will? Yeah. Okay. Well, then we'll do it. And we basically structured a scoring game. I mean, he was not athletic. he shot par in October that year. Um,
Wow.
Hit a low pull cut 5 wood off the tee, but we got him to chip and pitch and putt. And I mean, you look at the tournament boards at the club that year. I mean, that last half of the year, man, he owned everything. You know, I mean, because that handicap couldn't keep up with how fast he was getting better.
Hmm.
And I think he was in 2004 most improved player by handicap in the nation. Like,
Wow.
I mean, he was a gazillion, and I think he ended as like a 6, maybe. So, and then he kind of quit playing golf after that. Became a
Yeah.
triathlete. I mean, it was just he was one of these motivated young guys. Challenge. I want to challenge, and but yeah, it was kind of cool. We just structured it completely different. I'm like, yeah, we got to get the ball moving forward, but you got to learn to score. If that's your goal to shoot par, I mean, it's not.
It's like
You don't have to hit
my
it 350.
the first year I played any type of tour golf.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm out there playing mini tours, but Jim Hallett was playing. He was coming back. He had his tour card, and what was crazy was not long after I'm watching. Remember the classics on Golf Channel?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I'm watching it one night. This was a few years later, and they're going over old masters from the
Yeah.
early '80s, and they're like, "Yeah, 21-year-old Jim Hallett went
Oh
off the lead on the 10th hole." I'm like, "Holy shit!" So
yeah. It's just play.
fast forward to I'm playing now, and he took me under his wing. Why he liked me, I don't
Oh,
know,
that's
but
cool.
he was coming back from shoulder surgery. I don't know how much half reconstruction or what he had done, but he didn't have the range of motion yet, and he was playing this 25-yard cut. I mean, the
Yeah.
divot was literally 45 degrees to the left on every single shot. But the guy would sit. He never shot over, I think, 72 or three ever. He would shoot between 68 and 73 every time.
Yeah.
But his short game was so unbelievably good, and his course management was so good.
Yeah.
And it's
Get
amazing
around
what
it,
you can
right?
do. Yeah, you can get it. It gets to the point where know your game, know the type of shots that you can hit, and then hit those shots.
I mean, there's a lot of guys who have made a lot of money just by doing that, right?
Hmm.
And then there's been a lot of guys who have probably not come close to their potential because they chased something that wasn't their game,
That's right.
right? I mean, remember the big joke, not a joke to us, not to the guys that happened to, but in the 80s and 90s, a guy would win the major, and then they might not win again for 4 years, right? Because they're like, oh, I'm
Hmm.
going to jump equipment companies, or I'm going to chase more distance. Now I won one. Now I got to hit it farther instead of going, oh, hey, can I play my game? And
Yeah.
you know, um, I used to do a seminar. I did a lot in Atlanta, where each year I'd take the stats from the PGA Tour, right? And top 10 money winners, take the ball strikers, scoring, blah, 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 putting, and then I'd take the bottom of it. And I remember like 4 years in a row, okay, I'd have the money winners up there. And, this is, let's call it 6, 7 years ago. I mean, one year Furyk was up there. Had won $4 million, hadn't won a tournament, but
Hmm.
but top 10, there's three guys always in the top 10 ball striking, right? Lucas Glover, Boo Weekley, and Kyle, who was that, played at Clemson? Drawing a blank on his name, but they were a top
Oh,
three ball striker.
yeah. What was that kid's name? I can see
You know
his
what I'm talking about?
face.
Spun the wedge off the green, trying to
Yes.
win at Texas. But so you have Boo, Kyle Stanley.
Cal Stanley. Yes.
Yeah, Kyle
He
Stanley.
lived at Berkeley for a while.
Oh, did he?
Hmm.
Yeah. And Lucas, and I know Lucas. I mean, Lucas and Boo Weekley are freak ball strikers. I mean, and
Yes, I
you
played
watch
with
that and
Boo.
you're like, yeah. I
Played a
mean,
lot with Boo.
but then you go down to the bottom 10 in putting, and all three of those guys were there,
Hmm.
like always, every year. And I'm like, look, but then you take a guy like a Furyk, who isn't going to really impress the average person with his ball striking, but well, he's getting up and down from everywhere, or Zach Johnson. Yeah, man, the guy's got a handful of majors, and you know isn't exciting to watch as a ball striker. Namely, I mean, he's not a bomber, right?
Hmm.
But these guys play their game,
Yep.
and it was just interesting to see. And then occasionally you get the guy who gets it all, right? I mean,
Hmm.
certainly Tiger. Spieth for a while had it all, right? Rory's at it. I mean, kind of Rom right now. Hey, I can hit it far, I can control it, I can play my game, and I can get it in the hole. But just it was always interesting to me that for like 4 straight years, those three guys were, you know, top five ball striker. And I mean, like you went through the category, every category, driving, approach to the green, but then putting, right there. And but made sense why Boo would kill it at Harbortown, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You don't have to putt much. You just hit it. You're gonna hit it 20 feet all day, and you know. So, but man, some amazing ball strikers.
What would you tell a young kid that's in college now, or even younger, or coming out of college that wants to get into coaching? What would be your best advice for them in today's world of coaching and what you see in the coming up in the future?
Um, if they knew they wanted to coach, I'd first say, make sure that's what you want to do. Like, go out and see if that if that's really a passion, right? Like, Ben. Ben's teaching a lot more now with the new facility. And even the other day, he said to me, he goes, "Man, like 4 a day, that's enough for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't want to do what you do. I don't want 8 a day. Right? I can handle 3 or 4. So I'd say make sure, I mean, if you have a passion, if you love it, just soak in everything. Don't don't be turned off. I mean, it, I'm a pretty non-confrontational guy. I don't like to get in these battles that I'm not that opinionated, right? But
You're like Michael Finney. You're
yeah,
the opposite of
I'm
Finney.
yeah, right, yeah, yeah. I mean, I heard his
and,
podcast with you, and
and he's
you
great.
know,
He's great.
yeah, oh yeah, I love him.
He's not afraid to jump in there.
No, I just but I would say, look, you can be drawn to these sides, and I am such not an absolute. Like, I love following all these great instructors on social media. That's a fun way to see things, but it it kind of hits a little nerve with me. It's an absolute that
Mm-hmm.
they're going, "You're wrong, I'm right, and this is the way." And I'm like, I don't know that. I don't know. I mean, I happened to when I was playing in Punta Cana one time, and we're making the turn. And if you ever saw that Callaway commercial, there's a kid from South America who has one leg, and they did a commercial on him. Callaway did, and he just has one leg, and this kid stripes it. I mean, unbelievable. And he just happened to be hitting balls. And I mean, I pull up and I'm like, oh my God, like this kid has one leg. He's standing here, doesn't have a prosthetic. I mean, just one leg, right? And I'm like, well, that kind of shoots any sort of weight shift absolute.
Yep.
I mean, don't don't tell him that you have to have a weight shift, right? This kid's figured out how, I mean, he's hitting the ball 250 yards. Well, you know, Um, yeah, that's important, but just when I see these absolutes and there's some sort of we're all still learning this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
And it's
this is
changing rapidly.
it's changing so fast. And I know it was tough for, let's say, old school to new school when radar came out, right? When the whole ball flight laws changed. I mean, there was a pushback from the guy. Well, I've been doing it 30 years and it worked. Yeah, well, it worked. Well, you're a good coach.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. You probably were doing it. You were just doing the right things, and you're doing what you did with what you had, and but you still have to adapt and learn. You know, what can learn. Um, what can you do to get better every day? Can you listen to a podcast? Can you watch some videos? Can you read a book? It doesn't have to be golf. You know, read the Talent Code. Read any of those kind of things. But if you think that you're good enough, and I'm set here. You're not going to make it.
Mhm.
You owe it to your students to try to get better and better and better each day. Give them a better experience.
It's
You
a,
know.
yeah, it's very good advice. Just keep continually learning because everything
Yeah.
changes.
So it's funny. We were talking about Todd, and so when he was out for Arthur's thing last week, Billy Horschel was with him, and so Billy and I played. We were out for 9 holes, and one of the guys asked Billy, "They said, what is it about Todd that you like? What makes him so good?" And it was funny because Billy said, "Look, I'm having the worst year of my career." He's like, "This is when everybody's saying you should change. This is when you would change coaches." And he's like, "Absolutely not, because I know what we have and what we can be." And he's like, Todd cares way more about the player's success than anything that it does for him. And I
Hmm.
thought, man, that's like I could have thought for 10 years about how to come up with a good testimonial for what you would want a player to say about a coach. And that was pretty much it. He's like, he goes, I talk to people all the time and they don't, who? Todd Anderson? Who? He goes, because he's not on social media. He's not
Hmm.
putting his name out there. He's not doing this. He goes, he will do whatever. And he said, if he came to me and said, you'd be better than another coach, he'll say it because he wants the best. But man, that's pretty much that's pretty good testimonial from a
Yeah,
player.
yeah, no
That
kidding.
you care more about your student than what you're getting. And for a young coach, if they could make that, put that on their door and look at it every day, each lesson you're gonna. I mean, what's it? Tim Cook always says what he has a great saying: "Be where your feet are," or something.
Hmm.
Like be in the present. And I think that's there's just all this stuff that's little things that separate you know really really successful and good coaches from just somebody who teaches the golf swing, right? Who goes through the motions, kicks the bucket of balls over. Okay, let's hit some more stuff.
When Sean Foley was on, he had a very interesting take, and for somebody that achieved the level that he did with the people he
Yeah,
taught, he said he was reading a post from Scott Hamilton had posted something on Instagram
yeah,
or Twitter or something, and Sean said it rang so true that uh, Hamilton said all 5 of my guys who were playing in the tournament this week made the cut. Thank God. Now I don't have to berate myself for being a terrible teacher. And it's like,
yeah,
one guy misses a cut or two, then you think you're the
right.
worst teacher in the world.
Oh,
Uh,
I
and
mean,
Sean said
you
that
live
was
in.
the best quote he's seen as far as
Yeah,
coaching and teaching in a long time.
yeah, and that's funny. Were you down here when Scott was down here when he was on the island?
No, he left right before I got here. I got here in '92.
Okay.
I think he left like
Hmm.
'90.
Okay, so I knew Scott really well in Georgia's section. We played a lot of golf together, and I spent a lot of time with him. And he's got some great lines, man. And
He does.
but he he's kind of really. If you talk about somebody who's really grown and adapted with changes, I mean, he was early adapter of some technology. With the different hotspots things and stuff that they had, and now getting into radars and getting into different things, and he makes players better. I
Hmm.
mean, his guys just there's not really you couldn't look at you know Chris Kirk and Boo Weekley and go, oh, they got the same coach, right? I mean, but they do. So
Of all the teachers out there, I say that he and what's his name in Alabama, Mark Blackburn.
oh yeah,
That
Mark, yeah,
you could line up all their students on the range and never guess that they're working with the same
never
coach.
know, yeah,
And
never
to me,
know,
in today's world of, as we talked earlier, everyone looking the same and or gravitating
yeah,
on each
right,
other, and those guys, there is really different distinctions between all
yeah,
their players.
sure. I remember, I was fortunate for a little run there. I worked with a lot of professional players and some guys on tour and a lot of nationwide guys at the time. And I remember the first lesson I had. I mean, sitting there watching and thinking to myself, like instantly, like, damn, I can screw this guy up so much faster than I can make him better. Like this this is easy to mess up. And this is we're talking about livelihood here. And I think everybody thinks, it's a dream to teach on tour. That was my goal when I was teaching. I want to be teach on tour, and fortunate to get out there to enough of an extent. Had credentials for whatever 8, 9 years, and that's hard. And it was hard on a life. It's not, I mean, I'd be happy to work with guys who are at that level again, but um, man, you want to talk about, you better make sure what you're saying. And so I think some of these guys get out there and it's their chance to, hey, let me put my, young guy, let me
Mm-hmm.
put my fingerprint on this guy, and I'm gonna, and that, if you're doing that, you're messing with someone's
Yes. Entire
livelihood,
career and livelihood.
who has a so much talent, you know. And but yeah, I mean, it's amazing. The guys that do it week in, week out, you know, it's it's a
That's
grind.
just it's a different breed. I mean,
Yeah,
I was watching a clip of Usain Bolt, my girlfriend and I, on social
yeah,
media, and she says, "God, how is he so fast?" I'm like, "Well, he trains. Yes, he trains. He does everything he's supposed to do, but there's just a genetic component to that individual, and there's a genetic component to somebody who wants to be on the road 30
yeah,
weeks a year or 20
right.
weeks a year and not sleep in their own bed. I mean, they're just driven in that direction, and I don't think I'd
Right.
want to do it."
I remember, it became so much more than golf swing, like
Hmm.
so much more. Like golf swing became minor, I mean, I remember being at an event and Thursday morning, player is moody. His wife's like, "Oh, he's angry. He storms out." She's like, "Every Thursday, and I'm like, here it is, I mean, it's finding a reason to play bad, and
Hmm.
there's just different. I mean, I've got a few stories of guys that I just like you. They'd say something you knew right then. Okay, they might make it through the end of this year, but they're not. They're not coming back out next year. They're
Hmm.
checked out. The kids are home. They're worried about, and it just became, golf swing's golf swing. Those guys are thoroughbreds, right? I mean, put them in the, get them in the right lane, and if it's good, they're gonna tear it
They're gonna
up. I
make
mean,
something. Yeah, they're gonna do.
yeah,
They're on go.
yeah.
They're like a
But
pointer.
man, changing that, getting that whole balance of family life, travel, agents, all the other stuff. I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot on them.
You ready to wrap up with emergency nine? You
Yeah,
got a few more minutes. This is always this the
I
funnest
got as
part.
much time as you need.
All right. Now this one is for everybody I've had on. And you're the 104th. This question
Wow.
should be the easiest for you. Um, your walk up song to the first hole is going to be what?
Oh, Mean
So,
Street.
yes, for you, it's the easiest one.
I do I get one for the back nine? Because then we're going Unchained. So playoff, we'll do Panama.
All right. Um, what's the one rule that you would like to see changed?
Uh, Playing out of the divot.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, here's, I thought about this and I was talking to someone the other day. Like, how many hours do you think the USGA and the RNA spent to change the drop from here to drop at your knee?
It's
Like, I
amazing.
mean, that wasn't a 30-minute over lunch comment. I mean, that probably took weeks, right? Well, let's knee. Well, do
Mhm.
we bend? And what if somebody's knees? But yet, you still have to. I mean, a divot. It's not your fault. I get the rub of the green, but if I was playing for a major championship, and you watch these shots by the fourth day, man, they're all landing in the same spot.
Mhm.
If you roll up in a divot, and that's what keeps you hitting the best shot, I mean, look, I know there's suspect. Well, is it a divot or is it? That would be the one I'd
Yeah, I wish I had
change.
that years ago. I was playing at U.S. Open local qualifier. I was at Midland Valley up in Aiken.
Oh
Had
yeah.
my brother's caddying for him. I think we teed off the back, and the first 4 or 5 holes I hit it. I was in the fairway. I was in a divot, and we
Oh
got to the fourth one. He goes, "Who did you piss
yeah.
off this
Yeah.
morning?"
Right. Yeah.
Let's see.
uh,
Best player no one talks about. You've seen a lot of great players. Who'd you say the best one no one talks about?
that's a good question. Best player no one talks about. Hmm. I don't know. Everybody talks about everybody so much now that
Yeah,
it's.
I have to change that question going forward. Let's
I
skip that one.
mean,
Take a mulligan on that one.
uh, yeah. I got to think about that. So, so
We'll come back. All right.
yeah.
Would you rather have your best round ever or your worst round in a hole in one?
Best round ever. I've had two
That's a
hole in ones. I'm good. Playing bad sucks. I wouldn't want to tell anybody what I shot.
the one habit that all golfers should develop.
That they should develop.
Yes, that they should get better
So
at. If there's one thing that they should, all golfers should get better at, what would it be?
I would say, they all say, every golfer says the same thing. I want to be consistent, but they do nothing consistent. So I'd say whatever that routine is of, to the fact, and we touched on this earlier with timing and tempo. I mean, I had a mini tour guy I worked with, and we would do a cadence because his pre-shot routine would be one time 9 seconds, one time 14. So doing things consistently. Um, and I tell people that a routine should be like, if you timed yourself brushing your teeth every day, you would probably be within a 1 second every day. Like, just when
Mm-hmm.
you brush, you don't think about it. We've had those days where, at least I have, where I'm driving to work and I'm like, did I brush my teeth today? Oh yeah, I did. I don't remember it, right? It was so subconscious that I don't think about it. And that should be their routine in golf. Like, it should be so subconscious and happen the same every time. But yet, they're raking one ball here, they're standing here, they're not setting up. Oh, why is that one different than the other one? Well, you didn't do anything consistent. So
Mm-hmm.
just that would be what I'd say the average player
Well,
can
yeah,
do better.
that makes total sense, especially with what we discussed today. Let's see, a couple more. This one's right up your alley, but and this one runs through my head. And like I said, I knew a little bit about music, nothing to be considered even novice, but the best guitarist of all time.
Oh, Eddie, no question. If you saw the shrine, this is supposed to be our you know guest suite, but it's known as the studio. It's pretty much a shrine to Eddie in here. I'm a big Eddie fan, so
All right. I mean, I'm sure you'll get arguments, but I'm sure you'll get a lot of agreements.
I'm fine with people arguing it, but it's
It's a fun conversation when I sit around guys who know music that they sit there and they
yeah.
back and forth.
Oh yeah,
Best your favorite thing that you purchased under $1,000.
under 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it'd probably have to be something probably in here in my studio. I mean, I really don't have a lot that I do. I like muscle cars. I like having a lot of guitars, and I like golf. So if it falls into one of those, so I tweak some different stuff. I'm rebuilding a couple guitars right now. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
them are a little more than 1,000, so that probably wouldn't. But tweaking stuff like that. So you know,
All right. Uh, your Mount Rushmore of coaches. So your top four coaches that you would put on the golf
okay.
coaching Mount Rushmore.
So I'd throw Todd in there because he's a mentor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Flick, uh, very early mentor to me, was a coach. I saw him every year from when I was 12 until the year he died. Was fortunate to present at the PGA Teaching and Coaching Summit in 2004, and he presented in the session after me, and that was like the full circle, right? Student and
Mm-hmm.
coach. So I'd put him in there. Um, I think without a doubt, any instructor needs to put Ledbetter in there.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily because if you believe in his whatever, but he put teaching as a business. All of a sudden, there started becoming more teaching professionals. There started being players on tour. Rates started becoming bigger, and I think a lot of that had a lot to do with what Ledbetter did for the business of all teachers,
Mm-hmm. I agree.
all around. So I mean, he kind of opened this whole thing up. So I'd put him, And I'd probably have to say, if you just want to look at track record, I mean, you'd probably have to put Butch in there.
That's a pretty,
Just
yeah, that's a
from,
pretty strong four.
yeah, and probably be
And
mine.
then the last one, everyone gets this one. In your opinion, as far as golfers are concerned, greatest of all time.
Well, um, I guess it's down to two, right? Jack,
Mm-hmm.
Jack or Tiger usually. I'd say that, I think Jack probably would be the one, maybe from my end, sentimentally, because that was more my era. I was already an adult. I don't think in Tigers, in that 4 year prime, I don't know that anybody could have beat him. I don't know how they would have fared in each other's era, because it's so different, physical
It
and
is
all
very
that.
different.
But I think, the tell you this, I would just kill to have been in their body for one swing and been in their mind for one swing. We were at Augusta with some friends. This is probably 10. I've been every year, but 10 years ago. Some was Tiger's still in contention back then, right? Like he's still
Mm-hmm.
ran. And we're standing on an 18 tee, and Tiger walks up. And he's looking up at the leaderboard, and it's Friday. He's kind of, and then he got ready and he put his tee down. And he said, and I looked at my friend and I said, I I would give anything just to be in his mind right now for the next 30 seconds, to know what that vision, what that focus, and what that feels like, because I can't imagine I've ever got anything close to that in my life. Just what how focused and calm and everything Tiger was in those moments. I mean, it's just spectacular. I mean, we're so lucky to have gotten to see that. Um,
I
it's
think you
funny.
said it. I think you said it exactly. I think this is just an assumption, but I think many people would be absolutely surprised at how quiet his mind would be in that
Yeah,
situation, where everyone else
uh,
is bouncing a million things off, and he's just one.
yeah,
Here's the shot I want to hit.
here it
That's the
is.
only thing he
Yeah,
does.
see the picture.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a son who is a junior at University of Georgia and golfer, and for the longest time he didn't get to see Tiger, right? Because like when he got into golf, Tiger was going through the injuries, and then when Tiger came back, when he won East Lake a few years ago, Hank, my son, was going out, and he said, "Okay, I'm going out on Saturday," and said, "Okay, here's where you need to go, and you need to sit right here, and the roars are going to come." I guess it was Sunday actually, and the roars are going to come. You don't leave this spot. I want you to be right here, because it was the first time he was ever going to see Tiger live. And I said, you get on this hole where he's going to hit driver, and he got some videos of it, and he was sending me texts. He's like, the earth is moving, and he's still 2 holes away, and I'm like, you just aren't going to believe it, and I'm like, and so he got to see that, live, and I was so happy, because I was like, seeing it on video, it's not the same. Seeing that
Mm-mm.
presence and what he commanded, and to see him do it again in his prime. This is obviously pre-car wreck, but to come back from those surgeries, I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So we're lucky to have seen what we
Yeah,
have.
especially that when he won at Eastlake, it looked like the Pied Piper when
Oh,
he's walking down the fairway.
just
And I
unbelievable.
laughed. I because it was Tiger, you knew it was coming when JT and
Yeah,
Rory and all of them are saying, "Yeah, I want to face Tiger on the final
yeah.
on Sunday." And I'm like, "Yeah, you have no idea what you're
No, you
asking
don't.
for."
Yeah,
And they all just fell by the wayside. It was
yeah,
vintage Tiger.
yeah.
Geez, anything we didn't cover today about coaching or junior golf or
You
geez, I think
know,
we neck checked
I think
all the
we nailed
boxes.
it, man. Yeah, I mean, it's I can talk about this stuff for hours. I don't have a lot of knowledge on it, but I can talk about it. So I
No,
mean,
it was
there's
great. It was
there's
awesome.
there's guys, I mean, it's and like you said, I mean, it's just, I really wish that, and I hope that, maybe we can kind of get this going. Everybody's still kind of getting through the move down here and everything, but I'd love to have some more interaction with all the great guys that we have down here and gals who are coaches, and do some, whether it's forums or getting some guys together and bringing in students, members. I mean, there's so many good coaches right here,
Hmm.
in a 30-minute range. I mean, we can assemble one hell of a forum, right? Just with
Yeah,
the people
absolutely.
that are here, and I really hope that we can take advantage. I know Tim and Jason and I have talked a little bit about that. I mean, Jason and I moved down here right away, and then all of a sudden there's a pandemic, and now everybody's trying to get back into life, and there's a lot going on. But I really hope that's something, and if somebody other than myself organizes it, I hope they invite
Well,
me to come listen.
yeah,
So,
at least go to a dinner. Tried having a God, this got to be 10 years ago. I mean, Jason Bale had just moved here. That's how long ago it
oh
was.
wow, yeah,
We
yeah,
put together, just invite everybody. Said, hey, let's just go meet at Truffles or Riley's one
right,
night for
yeah,
dinner and just sit around a table and talk. And we had a couple, and then it got to be season, and guys were spread out all over.
yeah.
So it
But
was
those are the
fun.
best times, right? Like, I
Yes,
mean,
it's a lot
you
of
go to
fun.
the show or you go to something like that. The great stuff is in the evening when you get back to the condo and everybody just starts spreading
Hmm.
ideas, right?
Yep.
So I love that stuff. So, and like you said, we've probably got a good collection of coaches right here that would
Yeah,
be,
a lot of brain power around here.
yeah. So I know you got to run, you got a match play today, right?
Yes, match
Who
play
you
this
playing?
afternoon, first round. Aaron, what's his name from Indigo Run? I haven't met him.
Okay.
I've been out of it for a while, so a
Yeah.
lot of these young guys are new, and I don't know them, but it'd be fun
Well,
to meet them all. I'm an old
well,
man now.
yeah, I hear you. Well, go play well.
Awesome, thank you, Rob. I enjoyed it.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate you having me on, man.